Welcome back to AI Prompting for Professionals. This is Module 2, Prompting for Analysis. In the last module, we focused on writing, summaries, emails, memos, and drafts. Now we're shifting gears. This module is about data, specifically how to use AI to make sense of numbers, spot patterns, and turn raw figures into clear, usable insight. Whether you're looking at financial statements, comparing periods, or trying to explain a budget variance to a client, AI can help you work faster and communicate more clearly. So let's get into it. Here's what we're covering in this module. We'll start with the mindset shift that makes AI analysis work, then build a framework specifically for analytical prompts. Then we'll apply it to 4 real scenarios. It's going to be variance analysis, trend identification, comparative analysis, and turning data into executive narratives. By the end, you'll have a repeatable process that you can apply to almost any data task. So before we dive in, I always want to make sure that we set the right expectations. AI is an exceptionally good thinking partner for analytical work, but it works best when you understand what it's good at and where it needs guardrails. AI excels at pattern recognition, narrative generation, and reframing complex data for different audiences. What it can't do is pull your live data automatically or replace your professional interpretation. You still bring the judgment. AI helps you communicate that judgment faster and more clearly. Think of it as a very capable analyst who needs you to hand them the spreadsheet and tell them what you're looking for. So make sure that you are verifying what's coming out of it as well. You must check. You cannot just get an output from AI and say, oh, that must be right. You want to verify its math. You want to make sure that it makes sense and passes your knowledge, right? So in module 1, we used a 4-part framework for writing prompts. For analysis, we're going to add a 5th element. So the framework is going to be role, task, data, focus, and output. Role and task are going to work the same way. You're telling the AI who to be and what to do. Data is the new element. So this is where you paste your actual numbers, your table, figures directly into the prompt. Focus tells the AI what to pay special attention to. Are we looking for big swings? Are we looking for outliers or risks? And then the output is going to tell how to structure the result. So once again, we're going to look at each one a little bit more. So role sets the analytical lens. So a financial analyst will approach data differently than an operations director. So we want to make sure we're thinking about what lens we want to be looking at the data. Task is your specific request. So once again, we want to be as precise as possible. Are you asking for a summary, a comparison, an anomaly check, or a trend? Data is probably the most critical part. We want to give it our actual numbers directly into the prompt. AI can't see your spreadsheet unless you share the content. Focus narrows the analysis so you don't have a generic read of everything. We want to tell it what's significant. What are we specifically looking for? And then output shapes the deliverable. Is this a ranked list, a paragraph, a memo section, or a table? And so together, these 5 elements are going to give AI exactly what it needs to do the useful analytical work for you. So here is what a complete analysis prompt looks like with all 5 parts. We have the role is act as a senior financial analyst, reviewing monthly results. So we're giving it the lens that we're a senior financial analyst. We might be using verbiage that maybe someone non-technical would not understand, right? The task is going to be analyze this budget versus actual report and identify the 3 largest variances. We're giving it the data. So we're going to paste our table, our figures, whatever that is. We're having it flag any variances greater than 10% or 50,000, whichever is smaller. So we've really set the focus. We want three large variances and we want to make sure that it's greater than 10% or $50,000. And then our output is ranked list with one sentence, plain English explanations, and a two-sentence executive summary at the top. So I know I already pointed this out, but notice how specific the focus and output elements are. This is where most people shortcut and get mediocre results. When you tell the AI exactly what threshold matters and exactly how you want the output formatted, the response you get back is much closer to something you can actually use. So instead of saying, just give me the three largest variances, we specifically said it needs to be greater than 10% or 50,000. And so that skews the AI to what you're specifically looking at instead of just saying, hey, here's three large variances, whoop-de-doo, here you go, right? So that focus is actually really important. And it'll also give you something to work with because if we didn't have that focus in there and you just gave it to your boss or somebody else, they might have questions. Why did you flag this that's, only 2%? And you have to say, well, that's just one of the larger variances. I'm not sure. And so this gives you a much more specific and much more helpful output. So the first use case is one that every CPA and finance professional lives with, a budget versus actual variance analysis. You have a table of budgeted figures and actual results, and you need to understand where the material differences are and why they might have occurred. Here's how you prompt for that. You might say, act as a financial analyst. Review the following budget versus actual report for Q3 and identify the 5 largest variances by dollar amount. Here is the data, and you would paste it there. Flag any variance exceeding $25,000 or 15%, whichever is smaller. Present findings in a bulleted list, each with the line item, the variance amount, the percentage difference, and a one-sentence possible explanation. Close with a two-sentence summary of overall budget performance. What you get back gives you a really solid foundation for your commentary. You still verify, you still adjust for context, but it's really given you 90% of the work done, and you just have to make small changes here and there. Trend analysis is going to be our next use case. So maybe you're looking at revenue across 12 months, headcount over 4 quarters, or expense ratios across 3 years. You need to understand the direction and whether anything stands out as unusual. You could prompt, act as a business analyst, review the following 12-month revenue data, and identify the primary trend. Any months where growth accelerated or declined significantly, and any anomalies worth flagging. Here is the data. Focus on months where the change from the prior month exceeded 10% in either direction. Summarize findings in 3 sections. Overall trend, notable months, and key concerns, if any. Keep each section to 2 to 3 sentences. And this prompt will surface the story in your numbers quickly and give you structured commentary to work from. And notice how specific we were. Review the following 12-month revenue data and identify primary trends. So we're saying, hey, we want to see the primary trend here in any months where we had high growth or a decline in growth. And then we tell any anomalies worth flagging, which is kind of vague actually, but then we're able to say, focus on months where the change from the prior month exceeded 10% in either direction. And so that really keeps it small and keeps it contained, which is what we want to do, be as specific as possible. Comparative analysis, year over year, entity versus benchmark, or scenario A versus scenario B is another area where AI can do your heavy lifting very quickly. So say you're comparing this year's income statement against last year's for a client review. You could prompt, act as a CPA preparing for a client financial review. Compare the following 2-year income statement. Here is the data, and then you post both years side by side. Treat year one as the baseline. Identify which line items improved, which declined, and which are flat, which is within 3%. Rank the top 3 improvements and top 3 declines by dollar impact. Present as a 2-column comparison table, followed by a short narrative summary of overall year-over-year performance. And so this output is a structured comparison you can drop straight into your client's material with pretty light editing, assuming that there's, nothing too crazy that you need to change. But telling AI where that baseline is, it really helps frame your variances correctly. And the last use case, in my opinion, is the most valuable one. You have the numbers, you understand what they mean, but now you need to translate them into a clear narrative for a board report or maybe a client letter or a management memo. And you need to do that in plain English without losing the substance. And so here's how you can prompt for that. You can act as a financial communication specialist, which personally I did not know existed until I kind of looked around, which I just thought was interesting. Anyway, act as a financial communication specialist using the following financial summary data. Write a 3-paragraph narrative suitable for a board level memo. Here is the data. The audience has business acumen, but is not deeply financial. And this is key because we're telling it not to use any super technical terminology. Paragraph 1 should cover overall performance. Paragraph 2 should address the 2 most significant variances. Paragraph 3 should close with outlook or key risks. The tone should be professional, clear, and direct. Avoid jargon. And so what you get back is a draft that you can refine, you can still personalize it, but the structure and the language are already there for you. So it's really taken out that heavy lifting. And notice how we specify the audience pretty specifically. Um, we said that they're business savvy, they understand the business, but they're not deeply financial, right? So instead of saying, they don't understand financials at all, we're saying, hey, they have a general understanding of basic finance, right? And I think that's key because you don't want it to be, for lack of a better word, dumbed down too much. But at the same time, you don't want it to go over their head. So that's a really specific way to really describe to the AI exactly who your stakeholder is. So before we wrap up, a critical reminder again about verification. AI analysis is a first draft, not a final product. A few things to watch for. First, you always want to check the math. AI can misread tables, especially if your data paste has inconsistent formatting. You want to verify the figures it's citing match your source. Second, AI doesn't always know your business context. It doesn't know that a Q2 revenue dip always happens because of seasonality, or that last year we had a one-time insurance payout that inflates the comparison. You have to add that layer yourself. And third, the conclusion is yours. AI generates the narrative structure, you apply that professional judgment. The moment you present analysis to a client or stakeholder, it's your name on it, not the AI's. So use it as a tool, not a replacement. So here's what we've covered in Module 2. AI is an excellent framework for AI is an excellent analytical thinking partner when you use it correctly. We have our 5-part framework: role, task, data, focus, and output. And it gives you a repeatable structure for any analysis prompt. Remember to always paste your data directly into the prompt. Be specific about what you're looking for and always verify before you present. The AI does the heavy lifting, but you bring the context and the judgment. That's what you're paid for. And so that's a wrap on module 2. In module 3, we're moving into communication. So, how to use AI to craft professional emails, client messages, and internal communications that hit exactly the right note. If you've ever spent too long on a sensitive email trying to get the wording just right, this one's for you. I'll see you there.